Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good morning. This is Sri Primo with the Week 11 update of the NFL that just wrapped up last night with a Monday night with the Texans overwhelming the Cowboys 34 to 10. But let's quickly start off with the three games I did talk about during my recap. We'll finally keep the Bills and Chiefs at the end. But let's start off with the games that was more important from a standing standpoint in the AFC North between the Steelers and the Ravens. And this was a classic match, a match which was very, very close throughout the all the four quarters. It was a defensive battle. Um, as I predicted, the score, all the previous scores that I've talked about between the Steelers and the Ravens, they were always low scoring games. It used to be a 13-10, 16-13 type of game, and this game definitely did not go up about 20 points. The total was less than 35 points. But when I look at how the Steelers pretty much neutralized Lamar Jackson, Lamar Jackson was clearly having an MVP type performance this season. The Ravens started 0-2, but they've bounced back very nicely. They had a little blimp on the road, losing to the Browns, I think. But after that, they have been razor sharp. Lamar has been throwing for 4 to 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, the Steelers with Russell Wilson, who was really not the Russell Wilson of the old, but um, the Steelers have an excellent defense. So relying on the defense, relying on some of the running game, Russell Wilson was able to kind of keep the Steelers afloat over the past few games. And this game, both the quarterbacks, Lamar and Russell, didn't really have breakout performances. In fact, their stats were between them, they had 2 interceptions and only 1 touchdown. And even from the standpoint of completion percentage, Lamar was slightly above 50%, and Russell was close to like in the mid 60s. So when I look at what really changed, I mean, the receiving core for um, Steelers was much better than the Ravens. Derrick Henry had a pretty decent. I mean, he had a good rushing touchdown, and the Baltimore Ravens combined for about 100 yards in rushing, but they just couldn't get going on the passing. I think that's where the Steelers really limited the Ravens. And Marlon Humphrey had an interception for the Ravens defense, but other than that, they Steelers were methodical, and as I was mentioning before, it all came down to 1 or 2 points, and even in the closing stages of the game, the Ravens tied, trying to go for a 2 point. But when you look at the film and when you look at the way both um, the receivers were really confused where they should be staying, and that's pretty much led to them not Aguilar and Isaiah Likely. Both of them were really confused about what the formation was, and that really didn't let Lamar throw the ball. He tried to scramble around, and that's how the game ended. So this comes down to coaching, especially at the end of the game. So with that, the Steelers now have established themselves as right now, they are the number 2 seed in the AFC behind the Bills. We'll get to the Bills soon, but I just quickly wanted to pivot to the NFC, and I'll come back to the AFC. In the NFC, the Lions are clearly the clear-cut favorite. They have some injuries going on, but Jared Goff, Campbell, the Lions defense, their dual running threats, and an amazing receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. They are clicking on all cylinders. The Lions just overwhelmed the Jaguars completely, 52-6. The Jaguars playing with a backup QB in Mac Jones, who was pretty horrific. And Jared Goff had 4 touchdowns, 24 for 29, 412 yards. And Montgomery Gibbs accounted for close to like 150 yards in rushing. And Amon-Ra St. Brown was spectacular with 11 catches for 161. But Williams also had like 4 catches for 124 yards and 1 touchdown. So the lines are clicking. As I mentioned, they are the number 1 seed in the NFC. In the other NFC West matchup, the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey was back. And I picked the 49ers to actually win this game. And it did seem for a very long time that they were going to win the game. And Geno Smith did have a very good game. And even the running was not good, but Smith Jigba was phenomenal, had 10 catches for 110 yards, and DK Metcalf. So they have the dual threats that really help them move the ball, although Geno didn't really play well from a throwing standpoint. But when it mattered the most, Geno Smith had this huge rush at the end, running touchdown to win the game with 15 seconds to go. Purdy was not solid. He was 21 for 28, 159 yards with a touchdown interception. McCaffrey, pretty decent, 4 yards a clip, 20 for 79 yards. And Purdy was also able to rush for a touchdown. But the bottom line is when you see Debo Samuels and Juszczyk not having any catches, not many catches, not making an impact, Seattle gives Seahawks defense the credit for limiting Purdy and the 49ers. And right now, when I look at that division, you got the Cardinals leading that division, but the rest of the teams are all in the hunt. They're only like 1 game behind, and anything could happen. I could see that maybe 1 or 2 teams from that division coming up because, like we talked about last week, in the NFC, we have the Eagles and Commanders, and any team from the NFC West. You got the Lions and Vikings. Vikings, I did set the ship straight with the victory against the Titans. The Packers escaped against the Bears. The Bears were flying and all, but then with the loss to the Patriots and a very controversial ending to that game with the Bears missing the field goal, the Packers now jump to 7-3. So you got the Lions, Vikings, and Packers in the division are clear-cut favorites to make the playoffs. Then you got the Falcons standing alone in the NFC South. So that would give at least 2 teams. I would think 2 teams from NFC East, 1 team from the NFC West, one from the NFC South, and the NFC North would have maybe 3 teams. That's where I see it. Let's quickly pivot to the game of the week, which is the Bills and the Chiefs. The Chiefs coming with an undefeated record. They have been undefeated, but one of the things that the Chiefs have constantly struggled with is not playing consistent football, but they've been lucky, they've been scrappy, their defense comes up in big spots, Mahomes brings them back. They do get a couple of questionable calls, and this is not just me saying it, but I've pretty much talked to a lot of NFL fans who have complained about the horrible officiating in the NFL. And the only reason why the NFL is the king of all sports is because of the fantasy that goes on, and most people in the country do play NFL fantasy, and they all want to see the points, and they all want to see their teams win. But the refereeing has been horrendous. It's not just in one game or the other, but even I was talking to a fan from Tennessee yesterday. Even in their game against the Vikings, there were some very bad calls, and you could see that. I mean, there were not many suspicious calls in the Bills and Chiefs. Let's get down to that. But it did seem that um, the Chiefs are getting a lot of calls, and it definitely clearly seemed that what the NFL wants. Now let's go to the Chiefs and the Bills. Uh, the Bills started off, they had the energy going, the adrenaline going, suffering from the loss from last year's postseason. They pretty much went through the field and got the touchdown with the James Cook run, but then missed the extra point. But then the Chiefs come back, Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes connected, and they went up 7-6. But then the Bills come back again, so this was like both teams trading touchdown back and forth, and then ending with a Tyler Bass field goal at the end of the first half to take a small lead for 16-14. The Bills then went on a great run in the fourth quarter because the third quarter was actually scoreless quarter, with both teams struggling to move the ball. They were getting some big plays, but they could not get those critical third downs, and they had to punt the ball to each other teams. In the fourth quarter, the Bills were still up 16-14, and then they came up with a huge touchdown with Curtis Samuel. That was an amazing play with the rush coming on to Josh Allen. Josh Allen was able to find Curtis Samuel, who made some couple of people miss, and then got in the end zone. And with the Bills up by 9, it's still a long way with 12 minutes to go. The Chiefs are very clinical. In less than 5 minutes, they were able to march down the field and get the touchdown to get the score down to 21-23 Bills. Um, the next 5 minutes was the most critical for the Bills. They kept moving the ball. Josh Allen was making one play or another. There was an amazing pass down the middle with Shakir. Shakir took a beating on that play, but came up with the ball on a 3rd and 9, I think. And the Bills continued to move the ball. But when they got to the 20-yard line or 26-yard line, you could see that the Bills had to get a touchdown and not a field goal, because a touchdown would actually put a two-possession game. And they made a gutsy call, 4th and 2, gave the ball to who else? Josh Allen. Trust the ball with your best player. Josh Allen scampers, saying it lightly, for a 26-yard touchdown run to get the game up to 9-point lead. With a two-possession lead with 2:17 to go, Mahomes could barely muster the team to move past the midfield on a 4th and 13 play. Got the pressure on him and threw a pick, his second pick to end the game. Mahomes had 3 touchdowns, but he was 23 for 33, while Josh Allen had 27 for 40, 262 yards. So both the quarterbacks didn't really play well. The key was Allen actually had 12 carries for 55 yards, and that really kept them, especially and capping off with a 26-yard run at the end to give the Bills a two-possession lead. The one thing that the Bills have to go think about, as if they have to like really contend with the Chiefs, is to have a better rushing performance. They had barely 100 yards rushing. They obviously they can rely on Josh Allen's heroics with his arm and legs. But if you don't have a consistent run game, the Chiefs, Kareem Hunt had 14 for 60. While he didn't have a great running game, you do know that Pacheco is going to be coming back for the Chiefs in a few weeks, and that would really change the dynamic for the Chiefs' offense with two-headed monster and Patrick Mahomes, who could be a triple threat for running, and that could really open up the Chiefs. And I really think the Chiefs are well positioned. I mean, they've been lucky in many games, including a game against Denver, where Denver had a 35-yard field goal blocked. They should have easily been 8-2, and Bills would have been hosting the AFC Championship. But right now, the road still goes through Arrowhead. So I feel that the Chiefs are well positioned. I think a loss like that could definitely reset, and that's exactly what happened last year for them when they lost to the Raiders. And that's something that both Mahomes and Andy Reid alluded to, that really changed their season. So I would expect the Chiefs to continue to be dominant. I mean, this was the game that on their schedule that I really thought that they could lose the game. Um, but other than that, I feel that the Chiefs are well positioned to pretty much run through. The one good thing for the Chiefs that they have going is that they do have a bye week. So when you give Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid 2 weeks to think about, they would be back in the saddle. And that's the way I see it for the Chiefs. And the Bills, they should be really thrilled about the fact that they beat the Chiefs again in the regular season. But it all comes down to the postseason. I really feel that they'll be matching up. The one team that can really bother the Chiefs a little bit, even though they don't have an offense to boost, would be the Steelers. I think that they have the defense with TJ Watt and company to really put some pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Um, and they are very good at stopping the run as well. So we will get to those later, but we do have some huge games for week number 12 for the Cowboys playing the Commanders, but that's not it. Actually, I was mistaken. The Chiefs do play the travel to the Panthers, and that should be an easy win for them. But um, they do have the 49ers and Packers. That's a huge game. You got the Ravens and Chargers. That's actually going to be a good game as well, and the Eagles and the Rams. Some notable names. So I stand corrected. The Chiefs do travel to the Panthers to play next week, and then we'll see how that turns out for them. Anyway, with that, we wrap up week number 11. The Bills fans should celebrate. The Chiefs fans should not be disappointed because the Chiefs are still the marquee team in the NFL. So, and then line as well. So, with that, we wrap up uh, this week's recap. Thanks again for listening, and thank you for supporting.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.